another copy via email to your liaison.
Yeah.
Before we get to questions, I kind of wanted to keep going with where Dr. Reitmeyer was going, because we did this with our advanced standing students, and it was really helpful. Does anybody in here want to throw something out to the crowd? What are you concerned about happening in field? Because this whole section was on problem resolution and barriers to successful field experiences. What's your worst case scenario, worst fear? Let's hash it out, let's group think.
So I guess my general concern is it's really clear that you guys go to great lengths to make these placements meaningful and fruitful experiences. I think my concern is going in with expectations that are too high. I'm going to have a variety of preceptors to work with in a variety of different capacities, and I'm going to have this field instructor that's going to be trustworthy, and we're going to have this meaningful open dialogue on a regular basis. And I think what I would appreciate is kind of to take care of some of those concerns. What's our baseline? Like, what's right at that line where this is still an acceptable placement and it's still going to be fruitful and beneficial, but it's not necessarily ideal. So I'm not going in with, oh, this is what should be the perfect placement as compared to what's going to be acceptable. If that makes sense.
Okay. That's a great
Well,
question.
I was going to first start that conversation off with, generally, and I can say this with confidence, 70% of the time when we get calls or liaisons get calls about concerns about the field placement, it's because of expectations. It's because students going in have this expectation, and that's why we really tried to give you this dialogue and content today. We've had some students who thought they were going to walk in and do their field instructor's job. You know, and when they got their learning task, they were like, well, that's not what I was going to do. So what do you think? This is a great dialogue starter. Thank you. What do you think one of the greatest things you can do to prevent that would be? Clarify expectations from the beginning. During block week. This is what I need to do, because I went to field orientation, I've been educated. I know what I need to do for my field learning experience. This is what I would like to do. Can these things happen? Let's have a dialogue. Clarify expectations right up front.
And this is where DER will come important, because some people will give you, some of your field instructors might give you a generalization because they forget you're new and you don't know, and they'll be like, oh, well, you know, I think about one of my supervisors was like, oh, well, you know, we'll just do supervision as it comes, but I got a lot of supervision from that instructor. So the way she first communicated it, I kind of felt like maybe I might struggle to get supervision, but I probably ended up getting like 2 hours a week. So clarifying is important. I definitely think so, but I also think you're asking a technical question, which is, when should you call us?
Yeah.
And the question to me is if you're spending, you know, it depends. You know, some nonprofits, you roll up your sleeves and you help with a lot of different tasks, even like climbing, because I think this is what you're asking about. But if you're doing that all day long, that's not what you're supposed to be doing, and I need to know about it. Especially I worry about this when you're working with preceptors, because preceptors don't understand what social work is. They think you're an intern, and they may think that you're there to do errands, or make copies, and you're not there to be an administrative assistant. It's fine if you're going to roll up and make copies. We all make copies and get together and put together packets. You know, you might think that's AA work, but we're social workers, and that's part of what we do to get a presentation ready. So it's about being in balance with the expectation. If you find that you're being put in a situation where you're not getting that, and they don't seem to know what to do with you, then you need to call us immediately and let us know what's going on.
And it takes more than 1 day in field.
Yes.
Please say 1 day. 1 day.
But I do think that what Jennifer first says is the first thing is do set up those expectations, but if you do set up the expectations and you find you're doing work that you feel is remedial and is not consistent with what you've learned that you're supposed to be getting, then you do need to let the liaison know first would be the proper protocol. Or talk about it with the field instructor. And we do have had problems like that. I've had situations where I've actually taken students out of practice. So usually you try to talk about it with your field instructor. They may not be aware if you're working with a preceptor, that's what the preceptor's having you do. So you try to clarify it internally first, and then the liaison. You don't let weeks go by. You just, I'm all about boom, boom, boom. You see how I've been on the agenda the last 2 days. So when I say you go through the chain of command, I'm not saying draw out the time process. I'm saying, get it, be reasonable about how long it might take to resolve it, but don't sit on it too long either. But contact and stuff is really egregious. I mean, if they're really making, are pretty clear about what they're going to have you do, and it's not consistent, then you need to let us know.
And we've given you guys pretty much a roadmap for what to talk about and what you know you should be doing and shouldn't be doing. So if you get into block week and they're like, oh, well, I'm going to need you to transport all these clients in your car,
Yeah.
boom.
Yeah, if you feel they were using you as a transportation driver.
You can ask questions about transportation, about supervision, about, like, we've given you guys the roadmap, the key to everything you need to start dialogues about. So it's setting these expectations and clarifying in the beginning. So if you get answers that you're concerned about, that's when you're contacting us in your liaison.
Yes.
Right up front at the beginning. You want these answers now, not in October. You see where I'm getting at?
Now, did that fully answer your question? Was that what you were getting at, or more?
Yeah, I think more or less.
Okay, more or less.
Not even so much, I don't know, not even so much like doing stuff that I didn't think I was going to be doing, but just the overall feeling of the experience, like not going in really expecting that
Right.
that shining star of a field instructor that's just going to
Right, we set high expectations.
Yeah.
The idea of, well, different field instructors are going to have different styles. I'm going to say something about that and then let you talk. Different field instructors have different styles. And sometimes I see that as a learning opportunity. If you're working with someone, when you go work somewhere, do you always have a choice over who you work with? No. And you have to, so it's not always going to be ideal. You're right in that context. And maybe you do have to, maybe you need to get the whole section on interpersonal effectiveness from DBT to learn how to maybe effectively be skillful in working with maybe challenging personalities, big personalities, large personalities, difficult personalities. But you should never tolerate being in a hostile work environment. You should never tolerate being in a situation where you're made to feel inferior or less than. I always want you in a healthy place and a safe place. If you're not feeling that it's healthy or safe, you need to let us know that.
The other part I was going to add there, realistically, and this is going to sound like more of a joke than it's meant to be, this is not going to be your ideal, perfect field placement. So you didn't get to pick it.
That's true.
We did.
That's true.
And we're giving you, hopefully, the best place to meet your educational needs and begin your generalist social work skills. And yeah, when you pick your own, you mess that up sometimes. But, and actually, because routinely, I talk with students middle of the fall. No, I don't want to work in juvenile justice or mental health or DSS or DMH, and that's where they are. You're not going to be there for 6 more months. That's where you are. But it's a two-pronged statement. I know I don't want to do this for a career, but I'm learning some really neat stuff, and I'll be able to. That's what you're there for. And so that's the perspective to bring with you. I may not choose this population again, but I'm going to learn some skills and learn about social work.
Were there more questions? Yes. Okay.
We see you back there at the back. Hi, thank you for giving us this opportunity to dialogue. I understand that I will have preceptors, and I'm very excited, however apprehensive within the fact. I'm concerned about the possibility of each person doing things differently based on how they operate within the organization. When is it appropriate to ask for continuity, for example, with conflicting methods of operation? Or what I learned, because based on why they got into social work and how it relates to the classes, if there is that discontinuity.
Well, I was going to come from the strengths perspective and tell you guys that one of the most valuable opportunities I think you guys can have in field is to be able to observe and shadow people with different styles. Because in social work, everybody comes out of their graduate degree with the same toolbox. But social work is an art, right? You hear that all the time. How you have one style is different from another style. How many of you have?
We all have to.
Yeah, I mean, look at Mike, Melissa, and I. We have very different styles of presentation. So I would actually look at it as a positive in terms of being able to see how, for example, if you have a group let's say you're in an inpatient mental health facility, you have groups, same group every week, you get to see 3 people do that same group, you get to see 3 different styles of intervention. So if you have questions about, I saw somebody do it this way, and then I saw somebody else do it this way, and they're your preceptors, those questions always go to your field instructor.
But are you talking about if you feel that what they're doing is not correct?
It's more of a conflicting.
Okay.
If one person does it one way, and then the other person, said, this is what you
Gives
should
you
do."
mixed information.
Exactly.
Then I would just describe, I just want to clarify because I think I heard 2 different things, and I want to be certain that I understand it correctly. It's confusing me, my express. It would really be helpful if we could sit down and maybe talk about this during our next supervision session, how you go about group. And, unless it's something real egregious or serious or ethical, then you'd want to talk about it immediately. But I definitely would address it head on. I always believe in addressing things head on and in the moment.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there a question back there?
Yes.
Yeah. The question was, some of us don't have our syllabi yet for all our courses. Some of our instructors haven't put them up on Blackboard. Is it okay if I don't have them for block week? It's absolutely fine. Some of you guys, you will have faculty who don't utilize Blackboard as much as other faculty. So you may not physically have your syllabi in hand until after Labor Day. So that's fine, because Dr. Reitmeyer has given you a great overview of the assignments. And you can tell your field instructor, I don't have my syllabi yet, but as soon as I get it, I'm going to email you a copy or give you a copy. Okay? I saw other hands. Hands?
Hello. Yeah, I was informed by a guidance counselor at the placement I was at that if I ever wanted to pursue a career in guidance counseling, and the state of South Carolina doesn't require for you to have a teacher certification as well as. I'm sorry?
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. It was like a teacher certification as well, but you have to have 3 years in the field placement of being in the school setting as well as a teacher certification if I wanted to apply somewhere out of state.
Jennifer, I got it.
Yeah. I can't answer that. I know my level of competence.
The important part of that question actually was the beginning of the question.
Okay.
The guidance counselor. Guidance counselor is an actual job title with a degree behind it and certification behind it. That is not a social work job.
Oh wow.
Doesn't mean a social worker can't also do it. I mean, you get different training and different degrees and such. But in the state of South Carolina and in some other states, guidance counselor actually is a teaching position. That's the education background they have, and then some specialized training. Now, I do certainly know some social workers who are now guidance counselors that went through that process that you described.
Right. Okay.
Who's next?
I feel Donahue.
Bill Donahue?
Yeah.
David Jones.
This is regarding, if you are in the field, basically, what if I see something illegal being done within the agency and it affects me emotionally? Where's my loyalty? Is it to my field instructor or to the agency? To not I'm just saying, because what if the supervisor there say, please don't report that? Or don't say anything?
Well, instead of me answering that, what does your gut tell you you should do? No, right? What does your gut tell you? What is it that you feel like you should do?
I should report to my field instructor and let him know what's going on at the same time. Well, I guess. But this is also an agency that I probably want to work with maybe in the future.
Well, I mean, have that back and kind of talk about it for a minute. Let's process this, guys.
Yeah, coming from a public interest law firm, I have very strong views on this. And, because everybody has a different code of ethic and every agency has its own set of policies. Yours is the code of ethics. And you need to do what the Code of Ethics tells you or informs you to do. If you are questioning what your ethical responsibility is as a student, we have an ethicist that we consult with called Sally Campbell that can be called. But if you're feeling like your field instructor isn't giving you information that is consistent with what you're feeling, you immediately need to contact the field liaison. If it's something that's really serious, I would want you to call me immediately. I have students that call me a lot of times with issues that rise to a certain level so that we can problem solve because I have access to Cliff. Remember Cliff came here yesterday? I called Cliff about a lot of stuff. And so he helps us with that. He's here to help us think through that and figure out what do we need to do so you don't feel alone in that process. I don't want anybody in here to feel alone if they are feeling torn about something. I'm asking you to trust us that we're going to help you through this. Ultimately, you're going to have to make a decision, but I guess I need to inform them. I'm also a social worker. So I have a duty if you give me knowledge as well. And so does Mike, and so does Jennifer, and so do your liaisons. And I don't say that to encourage you not to tell us. I feel like I have a duty to inform you of that because it could present a situation for me where I have to hold someone else accountable, especially if it's a colleague engaging in something that is not true to the Code of Ethics.
But if you report something like that, and I guess part of the question was, I want to work there afterwards. Isn't there protections in place for
Whistleblowing.
Whistleblowing.
Yes, there are supposed to be protections in place.
But it still doesn't get rid of the fear.
Right.
There's what's supposed to happen in the policy that is in place, but people are still afraid about working in an environment where there might be repercussions, right? How can you do things in a way that maintains your confidentiality and where you can still be safe if you want future employment? That's why you don't need to do that alone. We need to discuss it as a group and we need to figure out a game plan.
Something else too, and I'm actually from like a farmer family who said, "Pull the government," might be honest. You will, and through experience, both classroom and real life and professional, have it already, and you'll gain more of it. But there is differences between unethical and illegal.
Yes,
There are illegal things that are not unethical.
that is correct.
There are unethical things that are not illegal. And so how you handle those things are sometimes different from one another. Also, as was mentioned, you're learning about an agency and the structure and who does what. People have different guidelines. DJJ, where I work, we have 5 different disciplines together every day. So it was not just my code of ethics that overlaid every situation from everybody's perspective, because we had psychologists, because we had security officers, because we had nursing, because we had teachers. Everyone had their different factors.
And their idea of what you needed or not.
Exactly. And on top of that, ethics, even our code of ethics, are often much more gray than we anticipated them being. I love working at juvenile justice, and I will protect them all the time. I saw things done to juveniles that I strongly questioned and had these kinds of discussions. But they were not unethical, and they were not illegal. They were against my value system. And that's a little different also.
It is.
But it was not like this immediate concrete issue. It needed more discussion than that for me to understand why.
And even ethical, the reason I like Cliff and I really do believe in legal counsel is not only a background, but even values that are gray, you always look at case law. People try to sue based on grounds of standards all the time, which are more ethical and not legal. And people are personally sued and that sort of thing, or tried to hold accountable. So the great thing about us having someone we consult with is he can look and see, is there any case law that has occurred in the state of South Carolina that can give us advice or guidance in this kind of a situation. So it's just always important so that we can protect you. We don't want you in an unsafe place either. See, now I'm concerned about, is this real? And what's going on? But I do want you to always feel like you can come and talk to us about this stuff. Because we do think about that and I do get concerned about that. You learning bad practices or thinking that the agency trumps everything when honestly they're not supposed to. There's a lot of laws out there and a lot that people don't follow. So, anyway, what other questions? Somebody's got to talk for that, right? Yes, all right. Brooks.
I don't have a question so much, I guess, as representing the preceptors. As I was one last year, and so it's not necessarily a scary thing to have a preceptor. It might be a good thing. Somebody who can actually give you work to do when your field instructor is AWOL. But something that I heard a lot from my interns last year was they would leave on Thursday, and there's a lot of time between Thursday and Wednesday when you come back again. So knowing that there are 6 or 7 days between, think ahead when you leave Thursday. If you're not sure what you're going to do on Wednesday when you come back a week from now, talk to your preceptor, your instructor, whoever, and get a task list so that when you get there you can work, instead of wasting half of Wednesday with no tasks.
Oh, that's great advice.
Fabulous advice.
I was just going to say really quickly, I wanted to make sure to express this to you guys before everybody started booking for the door like this place was on fire. Is that I know that we've gone through the formalities and the policies and the procedures and the protocols today, but I wanted to make sure that everybody in here knew that even though we have these policies and procedures in place, you go to your field liaison first, you go to your field instructor, that we are always accessible to you, okay? By appointment. I was told to say that. By appointment, because we have extremely busy schedules in the office. But if you felt a connection to one of us, because we always said in the beginning of our dialogue yesterday about how you need to find a mentor, if that happens to just be one of us, then that's okay. Utilize us. That's what we're here for. We have an open door policy by appointment. So please just make sure that you know that we are here to support you, and it's not like we make you go through 2 days of orientation and we're like, ha, we don't have to see them till next year. So this is an ongoing partnership with you and us, and I just wanted to say thank you, all of you. I know this was a long 2 days. We caught you on the last 2, but we couldn't have gotten through this without you guys participating and being engaged actively. So I wanted everybody to give yourselves a thank you.
I hope y'all have a great week next week. Be safe and take care.
Yes, I got it.
She gonna get it. I gotta go to the back.